today so far? Looks like everybody, right? Wonderful. All right. So let's start with our vision, mission, and core values. Christy, do you want to start? Actually, we should have Anita start.
Sure. Our vision is to develop globally minded citizens who have the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to affect positive change in our world.
Anita, do you have it up? You want to go with the mission?
Yep, sure. So the Globe Academy fosters global learning opportunities through balanced education for children of all backgrounds. All right. So for children with all backgrounds, with a focus on dual language immersion, an experiential learning model, and a constructivist approach. Globe inspires students to be high-performing, lifelong learners equipped to make positive impacts in the world.
Core values, Ryan?
Core values. The Globe Academy's core values are expressed in the acronym CREST: community, respect, empathy, sustainability, and trust. These values are expected of the governing board, faculty, staff, parents, and students. They are woven into daily life at Globe and incorporated into the curriculum.
All right, Crest. Katie, are you ready?
Sure. Community. We are inclusive and we nurture and support one another.
Jonathan.
Respect. We treat ourselves and each other with kindness and dignity.
Megan.
Empathy. We strive to understand and share the feelings of others.
Monique.
Sustainability. We aim to conserve our resources for optimal use in the present and future.
And then Luis.
That's all, right? Let me just.
Oh, we did 5.
No, trust, sorry, trust. We are committed to honesty, transparency, and respectfully sharing our thoughts and encouraging others to do the same.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so next we have public comment. You have up to 2 minutes. Christy or is Jen here to give people speaking access? We have Dabney Evans, Lauren, and Lauren Christensen Lindquist that have all asked to speak today.
Just tell me who goes first.
Dabney Evans.
All right. All right. Dabney, you should be good to go. Go ahead and say something.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, you're good to go.
Fantastic. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dr. Dabney Evans, and I'm an associate professor in the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University and parent of a rising first grader at Globe. I'm here tonight to call upon you to immediately establish an ad hoc COVID task team and to issue an open call for expression of interest for interested subject matter experts. The process for selection of members of this task team should be transparent and include the opportunity for parent input and external oversight by subject matter experts. The value of this group would be in operationalizing guidance from the district to ensure the health and safety of students and staff. Given that the county is likely to release its plan in the coming week, I want to emphasize the need again to urgently establish such a group so that they can meet in July and make recommendations to leadership with enough time that its decisions can be implemented before school begins. Such action is already long overdue. Over the past few months, I've reached out on numerous occasions to members of the Globe administration to offer resources and my subject matter expertise for planning purposes. I also know that numerous other parents have reached out with inquiries and to offer their assistance, and that a number of these inquiries have either gone unanswered or have inadequately been addressed. For example, when I asked what considerations were being made for high-risk parents or those with high-risk children during end-of-year pickup, I was referred to the original pickup schedule. Even after I suggested that the first hour of the pickup schedule be modified to accommodate high-risk parents or others at high risk, no accommodations were made, and none have subsequently been made in arrangement for auction yearbook pickups. This is deeply troubling and seems to reflect a lack of understanding about the importance of accommodation. In last week's school update, we were told that Globe's leadership team is meeting weekly. While I appreciate the efforts of the leadership team, this is insufficient. We're facing an unprecedented pandemic that threatens the health and safety of us all. Doing everything we can to ensure a safe learning environment for our children should be an absolute priority. Globe needs a standalone COVID task team with subject matter expertise in pandemic response, whose sole purpose is to develop and provide oversight to a continuation of operations plan for the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dabney. I appreciate it. Next up will be, sorry, let me just, Lauren, you say her last name Heis or Hees or something else? You're muted, Christy. Heis. Okay.
All right. Lauren, you should be good to go.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't receive a confirmation, so I was not aware that I was going to be speaking, but I spoke last meeting and just wanted to reiterate that I hope that people who are immune compromised or living with people that are immune compromised do have an option for distant learning. And I also wanted to just say that I hope, I mean, I'm sure y'all have been working diligently over the summer. I hope there are a lot of things in place for distant learning that weren't last semester. I realized that, you know, we were all just kind of thrown into this and everyone was unprepared, but I would really hope that distant learning for the future would mean a good amount of structured learning for children who aren't able to attend school in person, whatever you know the options look like. The children that are at home also need instruction and teachers actually teaching them as opposed to just assignments to follow along. So I'm hoping that the school day is more encompassing and similar to that of an in-person school day with several hours at a time of guided instruction from teachers. Maybe that means like one teacher in the classroom and one teacher for virtual learning, or I've heard of other schools possibly putting cameras in the classroom to follow along virtually. So I hope that that will be announced soon what the plan is, because I know a lot of parents are really struggling with trying to make plans and a lot of anxiety and not knowing, you know, what's going on and what the structure is going to look like and what the schedule is going to look like. And if I can be of any service, please let me know. But I think if there are people that are reaching out that do have expertise in the area of you know, disease control and things like that, I hope you will take them up on, you know, forming a committee for this, because I think that would be beneficial to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Next is Lauren Christensen Lindquist. And Robin, I see your note.
Okay. Lauren, you should be able to talk.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good to go.
Great. Thank you. This is a variation on a theme here. But good evening. My name is Dr. Lauren Christensen Lindquist, and I'm an assistant professor and the director of master's programs in epidemiology at Rollins School of Public Health, and the mother of rising first and fourth graders in the French track. I've been deeply involved in Emory's plans to return in the fall and understand just how much thought and consideration is required for these efforts. In fact, our department leadership team has met at least once every weekday since early May to ensure that we are well prepared to welcome our students back in August. While I understand that Globe awaits guidance from DeKalb in order to fully move forward with making plans for what the fall will look like, I have been disappointed with the lack of transparency regarding how the plans for the fall are evolving. Meeting weekly does not seem nearly enough to prepare to welcome nearly 1,000 students back in August, and it is unclear exactly who has been involved in these discussions. I have offered my expertise as an epidemiologist and as someone who has thought through these efforts for a major university and have been met with no response. While the weekly reminders indicate that remote instruction falls under two of the possibilities for which Globe is preparing, much thought is required for how this will work for the target language instruction. This, of course, will be a departure from the DeKalb plan, and we must ensure that the students are getting what they need in order to make progress in the target language. At the same time, we must also be careful not to overextend our teachers who are already working so hard to provide a positive learning experience for our children. Some additional transparency is needed to help the Globe community understand the process that the school is undertaking to ensure a safe and smooth return for the 2020-2021 academic year. In addition to including Globe leadership and staff, the committee that is undertaking these efforts should have representation from subject matter expertise in public health preparedness, as well as parental input to include families with a range of experiences, essential employees, those who are working from home, those who experience substantial barriers with remote instruction, and those with varying COVID risk profiles, just to name a few. I understand that this is an incredibly difficult time for us all. Many parents cannot make plans for their own employment or their familial circumstances until Globe's plans are announced. I strongly encourage both the board and Globe's leadership to provide as much transparency as possible and to draw on the wealth of expertise and diverse experience of our community as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Robin? If there's anyone else that wanted to speak, you could put a note in the chat, otherwise we'll assume there's no one else. I think you're up, Robin. I think Christy's on mute. She might have said something. But...
So sorry. Robin, you should be good to go. Robin, can you hear us?
You muted.
You muted yourself, so if you would unmute, then you would be good to go. Can anybody else hear her?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No, she can hear us, and we can't hear her.
I know. She is unmuted, so.
You might be double or triple muted, Robin, but we're going to have to move on if you can't. Feel free to send me a note, and I can share it with the board and include it in the minutes if you like.
There's nothing else I can do on my end. I wonder if her volume is all the way up. Sometimes that affects.
All right. Well, we're going to move on, and then if she sends me something, I'll share it out. We can put it in the minutes.
There's a chat that she put in here. It says C&A.
Can I talk at the end?
Oh, can I talk at the end? Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
If we can, yeah, if we can fix our issues, I think we can let her do that. Or we can see if we can fix it in the next couple of minutes, because I actually have an amendment to the agenda that I'd like to do real quick, if everyone.
Okay. So for the consent agenda, what is your amendment?
My amendment is to just change our current agenda. I'd like to make a motion to, following public comment, publicly recognize our current board chair with a show of gratitude.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
All right, I'll try to share my screen here. Let's see if we can, I can show all of our hard work here.
Uh-oh.
Can y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Ryan, just make sure your volume is up.
Did you click share computer sound? On your share button, you should have clicked share computer sound.
I'm here.
Yeah, when your dialog box comes up saying which screen, and the little checkbox at the bottom.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Let's give this a shot. Hi, Sharon. Congratulations on 2 successful board terms at Globe. You've come a long way in the 6 years since you started serving on the board, and you've had a huge impact on all of our success. From a successful charter renewal to a new strategic plan, you've had your fingerprints on everything that we've done. On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your tireless service and dedication, and most importantly, your leadership these past 3 years. We truly appreciate everything that you've done for Globe and the community and the school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon, thank you so much for your passion and your many hours that you've put into Globe. We appreciate everything you have done. Thank you.
Sharon, thank you for your service to the Globe Academy and your leadership on the board of directors.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to serve on the Globe board. It's been a joy and a pleasure getting to work with you and to get to know you as a friend.
Sharon, thank you so much for everything you have done at Globe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for all of your hard work.
We know you're departing us, and we want to thank you for your great service.
Congratulations on finishing 2 terms of board service and your term of leadership as board chair. I just want to thank you for your leadership, and specifically from the diversity committee. I thank you for your involvement in actually forming the committee at the board level.
Thank you. Gracias. Merci beaucoup and Shay Shay.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Ryan,
Chip,
can I say something
that
real
was
quick
really
to add to that?
heartfelt.
Yeah. Chip, go ahead.
Sharon, I also wanted to thank you, but you didn't bother to remind me to send my video in time. And so I didn't send it in, as always. But I looked back at our emails all the way back from early fall 2013. And it's amazing the amount of stuff that time and effort and energy that you've put into the Globe. So I just want to thank you as a parent, as a board member, as a friend, as somebody that's glad that this school is still here after that first year. And you and the leadership team and a lot of the other board members, but you especially, had a lot to do with that. So thank you very much.
Well,
And I'm
thank
going to
you.
add in Chip's comments too. Sharon, I've never met anybody who's as dedicated to figuring out problems. You don't, or you may not always know the answer to things, but damn straight you're going to figure out what some answers and options are. So thank you for your perseverance, your leadership, and honestly for pushing us all to challenge ourselves. When we think we're right, you remind us that we may not be, and to maintain an open mind, and also just really absolutely pushing. And I think that's what Globe has needed at its front end. And you never let up. Some of us hoped that you would sometimes. But your energy and your support and your dedication to the school is by far what's gotten us to where we've been. Thank you for all your leadership.
Thank you.
And I have a couple of people that I would like to invite over here to say a few words as well. Rachel, I am trying to move you. There you are. So you can turn your camera on if you would like as you speak to Sharon. And you're muted, so you got to turn off mute.
I didn't know if I was first. Hi, everybody. Sharon, Anita took the words out of my mouth. I have never seen anyone attack a problem the way that you do. And if you don't know that you've been on the back end of Sharon's research prowess, you have been. She has researched every one of us and can find out everything that is ever needed to be known about any subject, any human. And your tenacity and your kindness and your smarts and your heart have been more valuable than anything anyone could ever imagine. And the amount of hours you have put in since day one have just been so incredible. And I appreciate the opportunity to have worked alongside you and watched you do what you do and gotten to know you as a friend. And I so appreciate all that you've done to make our school what it is. And I love you.
I love you too.
All right, next is Robin Brandman, if we can get it to work.
Is it working now?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Video. There you go.
I'm actually speaking on behalf of both Brandmans with a heartfelt thank you to Sharon for all you have done for Globe. Throughout our 8-year existence, you've been a core part of shaping and making Globe what it is today. Your dedication was integral to making the vision of this school and community come to life. From the early days to helping form the board, the foundation, and the structure of the PTCC, to leading the charter renewal, the strategic plan, and the million other ways you have served our school, both as a board member, a board chair, and as a parent. So from our heart, the Brandman family thanks you for all you've done, and we wish you good luck, and we will miss you terribly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. And now I do believe that Ryan has something. If we have something that.
Yep. So first, Sharon, I wanted to let you know there is actually a longer version of that video.
Yes.
Everyone had, said a little bit more, but we kind of cut it short just for the purposes of the meeting. But I'm going to send you that. So there is more than just what you saw.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. We dropped off a little. Hopefully you have it right there. I just wanted to, if you are, the spirit moves you, you want to open it up and see what Christy's great brain came up with on behalf of the board. We'd like to just show our gratitude and give you something to remember us by. We know you'll have the memories.
I do have that. This is amazing. Let's see. Oh, wow. Oh, it's a globe. That's fantastic.
Karen, look at the bottom.
Oh, it's inscribed. 2014 to 2020 and a heart. Wow, thank you. Let's see if I can get it.
Yeah.
And thanks to your wife, Ryan, for bringing it to me.
My wife was the courier today and brought it over.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you all, and I appreciate everything. I mean, I worked hard, but all of you have too, and everyone who spoke are people that have been working alongside me. And I think I'm really excited with everyone who's on the board now and how we have the school structured, that you guys are positioned to just do amazing things. And I can't wait to see in the news all the wonderful, amazing things you've done after I'm gone. So thank you all so much.
Thanks, Sharon. Here ends the gratitude unless others have more to say. We will open it as long as we need to. Anyone else?
I'll just say quickly, Sharon and I know each other really, really well, and our girls know each other really well, and I think Sharon's going to have a life start July 1st. So hallelujah.
We'll see. How many passions. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you very much. All right. So next on the agenda before we, is PTCC. So let's jump into that.
I'm assuming that is Michelle Rios. Michelle, is that you?
Yep. How are you guys? Well, this is tough to follow, so I'll just say something quick on behalf of the entire parent community. Thank you so much, Sharon, for your leadership. Your tireless nights are definitely do not go unnoticed, and thanks for helping shape up the school to what it is today.
Thank you.
Now on to PTCC matters. We have a quick report. We keep pivoting and adjusting as needed as we go through these times. So we still have 2 positions open. We have a spot for the fundraising pack, and we have a spot available for the global awareness pack. If you all know of anyone that may be a great fit, please send them our way. We conducted a PTCC virtual orientation. It was wonderful. So we got the chance to thank our outgoing members and welcome our incoming members. And we have some really excited incoming members, and we are so thankful for them donating their time to us. So we will be setting up individual meetings with the PACs to help them set up budget and events and etc. And we'll get to that in a second, the second part of that. The Globe auction, I know we did give a report on the previous meeting. However, there were still a couple pending items. So I have the honor and excitement to report that we rocked it. And our gross revenue was $75,997. That is just absolutely outstanding. And it has to do with, you know, everybody. It's not us. We couldn't have done it with all the volunteers that helped out, that really took the time to pour into it, and that bled into the Globe community, and everybody was really excited about it. This includes $4,675 that was raised for the Funda project. Our goal was $5,000, so we were a little short there. The good news is that that goes for libraries at the school, and all the books have been ordered. So, you know, we're rocking along with that. Thank you, Jen, for helping make that happen. Carpool flags is the next item and last item that's still available. And once we have a little bit more of an idea of how the school year will start, then a decision will be made on when the carpool flags will go up for auction. Funda project, already touched on that. Used uniform spirit wear sale. So again, once we have a little bit more of an idea of what orientation will look like, we will make a plan on used uniforms. We truly, I mean, we don't make money on it. It's truly a community service, you know, to help families out. So we just want to make it as easy, seamless, safe as possible for everyone. We have chosen a new spirit wear vendor, and we're very excited about that. And we're finalizing details, so we will have the new spirit wear offerings in the next coming weeks in preparation for back to school. Lower campus Globe mascot mural, the spot has been chosen, and walls are being prepped, and the mural will be done in the first 2 weeks of July. We recognized our Parent and Teacher of the Year today, actually. So some goodies were dropped off for them. So Carrie Brown was voted unanimously by PTCC as Parent of the Year. We thank her for her efforts with the mascots, and she was also an integral part of the auction. Yeah, we're very grateful for her. And Ms. Daniel, she was voted as PTCC Teacher of the Year. She devoted a lot of her time, not only her school time, her teaching time, but she actually devoted a lot of personal time to support PTCC on different events. We were also talking about volunteer recognition. Each PAC nominated the super volunteers. They were all recognized for the time and effort. Some goodies were dropped off at their front doors. And our outgoing leadership members were recognized as well. And just for our upcoming events, just need some guidance on an insight on what back to school will be like so we can plan for our events. We are planning on what we call Plan V, as in virtual, for our events. We do want to ensure that we create and continue to host community building events, and particularly for the incoming class of kindergartner families, and just keep providing the services we do for the school. We do have pending items facilities wise. Getting the sidewalk games painted in the park at lower campus and at upper campus in the parking lot, and our lower campus teacher lounge renovations. So that's all I got. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
That's all great stuff. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right, as we go to the rest of our agenda, we actually have switched things up a little for the first time ever, maybe. We decided we're going to put Christy's report at the end of the reports going forward, and then the rest of the reports we're going to have in alphabetic order, except where we're trying to focus on something, we're going to have that go first to make sure it gets the right attention at the meeting. And then that way anyone who has to leave early at least gets to see whatever we're prioritizing for that particular meeting. So as you'll see this week, diversity will come first, but what we would also like to do, there's a letter that we sent out as a board last week or so, and we'd like to read that and have it officially in the minutes of our meeting before we get started on the diversity committee report with Monique. So I will read it. Dear Globe community, we are closing out the school year at the Globe Academy at a time of great turmoil and change in our country. The violent deaths of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and Rayshard Brooks have highlighted how systemic racism and violence continue to marginalize and oppress people of color. These events strike at the heart of Globe's mission to develop globally minded citizens who have the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to affect positive change in our world. At Globe, we believe Black Lives Matter. We condemn racial violence, racism, and white supremacy. We honor the diversity of our Globe community, and we call on members of our community, including board members, administrators, teachers, parents, and students, to join together in working to dismantle more than 400 years of racism in our school and in our community. We acknowledge that racism involves both individual acts of prejudice as well as systemic forces that create advantage based on skin color. As such, Globe will aim to eradicate individual prejudices and also dismantle the systems that enable racism to flourish. To engage in this work, here are the steps we believe Globe is poised to take starting in fall 2020. In classrooms, improve strategies to reduce racial disparities in academic achievement, school discipline, attendance, and other key indicators of school success. Identify and implement anti-racist pedagogies that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Offer opportunities for discussion of racial issues and racial justice across grades and campuses. Be sensitive and responsive to experiences of Black and Brown students, staff, and families. In our school community, retain a vetted consultant with a proven track record of assisting organizations in creating a more inclusive, diverse, and equitable environment to guide Globe in the implementation of Globe's strategic plan. Review and revise Globe's mission, vision, and core values to specifically incorporate building a diverse and inclusive community. Include diversity metrics in the executive director's monthly dashboard at board meetings, including board staff and student diversity. Board staff and student diversity. Commit to clear, transparent communication on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Provide staff with the knowledge, resources, and skill set needed to create learning environments free of prejudice and discrimination. Hire and retain staff to reflect the cultural, racial, and linguistic diversity of our students, and ensure that our work environment is safe and welcoming to all employees. Incorporate professional development focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion for all staff. Globe strives to have a school environment that is welcoming to and supportive of our Black and Brown students, teachers, staff, and families. The board invites you to let us know when we have missed the mark in that regard. I encourage our Globe community to ask teachers, staff, and families to inquire about each other and offer support. Together, we can help make sure our children will live in a just world. Thank you. So Monique, are you ready?
I am ready. So I guess whoever's sharing the screen, or can we put up the packet and on the diversity committee report? Is anybody's up, or do I need to share my own? Do we have it up? Well, my report is in the, okay.
Like while Luis.
Thank you. It should be the first report, but I won't bother to read the entire report, but I did want to let the community know that that I did have again, the diversity committee was not scheduled to meet for the rest of the school year or rest of the summer. We're going to take a couple of months off and then start back up in the fall. Mainly because we didn't expect a lot to happen over the summer, and we were kind of at a stalling point when the diversity, the vendor to help with that aspect of the strategic plan, when that was put on hold because of the funding. And so what we ended up doing was saying, okay, well, when we get the funding and we're going to move forward with that, we'll start back meeting, because the point is for us to be a part of the team that the vendor is leaning on to help guide the goals that are set out in the strategic plan that are the product of the equity audit and such. But to be a part of that, and it didn't make a lot of sense to meet over the summer. However, current state of affairs made this absolutely our show, the thing that we are here for, the leaning on, to be leaned on by staff, administration, parents, students, whoever wanted to know where Globe was in these very troubling time, but also this very transformative time in our country. So we did. We had a meeting on June 22nd, and of course it was a Zoom meeting, and we had a very admin heavy turnout. We had our head of school was there. I'm sorry, our executive director was there. Christy was there. Katia was there. Judy was there. We had a parent, we had a teacher, and we had our board chair there and myself. And so it was very encouraging to see very high level individuals in our organization to show up for that particular meeting. And they show up all the time, but maybe not all at the exact same time. So it was just good to see everyone there. So at the meeting, we did discuss some of the recent responses that came out kind of under the Globe umbrella. So we're talking about the Facebook post, the messages in the newsletter, our Juneteenth post. There's also the board statement. And so at the time, the board statement had not gone out. And, you know, we talked about it and some of the concerns that people had. It was already drafted and done. And so I don't know that there would have been much change because of the board statement had been vetted through the board, but we did have a lot of conversations about, you know, accountability and things that that would definitely come up from our parent body, but also from, you know, ourselves, making sure that we weren't putting out there those, you know, in the classrooms and in our community type statements that we could not follow through with. And so discussing that with the individuals, like I said, the executive director and the head of schools for both campuses, discussing that with them and just seeing how that stuff would play out, what that looks like in real life. And you know, even if it sounds really good coming from the governing body, but making sure that it was something that we can hold people accountable to, and how would we measure those things. And so we went back to discussing where exactly the DEI vendor comes in place. And so again, that was something that we were going to hold on until the funding situation kind of worked itself out. We knew what was going to happen with that, but in light of these events, it's certainly something that was elevated. And so we, I believe today we will be voting on having voting on the budget for the DEI vendor. So we had already vetted a vendor. I mean, I know most people know, it seems like this is all I talk about, but we vetted a vendor, we interviewed a bunch of vendors, we got a contract with the vendors, we've gone through the contract, we've gone back and forth with the committee on, whether the contract meets our needs, whether the contract and the services that this particular vendor is going to provide, whether it meets those buckets and issues that we put in the strategic plan under the DEI bucket, and then whether it addressed some of those findings that we had with the equity audit, and making sure that all of that stuff, the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years, are met by this particular vendor. And so we're comfortable with that. We have the contract for that, and that will be the first step in making sure we're putting the material out there. We're teaching everyone to approach these issues kind of from a systematic way that we can say, okay, our community was educated with this. This is a standard that we are hoping to proceed with, and everyone here has the tools because we've equipped them with them and we've held them accountable to them. So this vendor will assist with training. This vendor will assist with materials. This vendor will assist with HR, making sure that we're hiring diverse candidates and making sure that we're able to see, the places that we can improve on those things. Our disciplinary policy will be dealt with, will be reviewed by this vendor. And so I'm really excited about the work that they have laid out for us, and the ability to have someone to look towards that is an expert in that particular field and has a lot of experience doing precisely this work. So very excited about that. And I don't know if we are ready or we'll wait until maybe Christy's part, I'm not sure, to talk about the cost and get everyone to vote on it, on the contract, so we can proceed with that. But I know that there's some budget stuff concerning with that particular vendor, but we're excited to be able to move forward with that. Christy?
I was just gonna say we could talk about it during the finance part.
Okay, all right. So that's so the meeting, like I say, the meeting went well, and at we kind of ended with waiting for the DEI vendor to be secured, making sure we knew who the points of contact would be for the administration. So it's not necessarily going to be the diversity committee. There is a staff liaison with the DEI vendor. And that would be Zakia, and her team, and everyone else will have their finger on the pulse of the work that's being done by the DEI vendor, and making sure that we're moving forward and actually checking off those items and incurring making real change in our culture as it relates to these issues. So that is all I have for today. So Sharon, I'll make the motion when we get to that. You're still on mute though.
Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you, Monique. All right, next up is Drew.
All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can you all see this PowerPoint here?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so for academic committee today, we have a couple of different items to discuss. But first, to begin with, we met this past week to talk about a number of different items, and I'll kind of lay out what we talked about and do some reporting this week at this presentation focused on race and ethnicity and differences in race and ethnicity when we look at school discipline and attendance. And so we'll show some data on that. And then also we'll talk a little bit about MAP testing and thinking about the fall for how to maintain MAP testing and some other pieces related to that when we are in a potentially disrupted environment. So But before kicking off with that, I do want to mention too that we've also developed a calendar for data and reporting for the academic committee, so that we'll have some piece of data related to GLOBE presented at each of our committee or each of the board meetings to keep the board informed on a variety of different topics, from standardized testing and MAP to STAMP things related to discipline and attendance, as we'll discuss today, and others. And so we're really excited about piecing that together and have a good plan for the fall. And we'll continue to develop that year-long plan into the spring as well. So to get started, we'll talk about racial and ethnic differences in discipline and attendance at GLOBE. Where the data come from for this presentation is available publicly on the K-12 student discipline dashboard, and there's a link here. So anybody can take a look at that. You can look at other schools, you can look at counties to make comparisons and to kind of see how the data look. They have a nice little dashboard that you can use to check this out for your own as well. But we wanted to talk about that in the context of our work at GLOBE, and so that's the purpose of our conversation today. I also wanted to note that we had public comment at our last board meeting related to anti-racist pedagogies and thinking about recent events related to Black Lives Matter. And I think that this is one way that with the academic committee is contributing to that conversation. In Sharon's letter also, we had talked about being transparent as a board about discipline and racial ethnic differences in discipline. And this is kind of a part of that piece as well. And I'm excited that Monique had shared too, that the vendor is going to have a chance, the DEI vendor coming up would have an opportunity to review discipline standards and have conversations about this moving forward. So the context of this is, I wanted to kind of start with an opening slide for somebody who may be new into this conversation, why it is so important that we look at school discipline practices and why we look at racial and ethnic differences in the context of schools. And so there's a phrase or a study or a term that's often used to describe the connection between disproportionate representation of people of color in the criminal justice system is also linked to prior involvement in school discipline. And so we see that students who are overrepresented in school discipline early on, students of color, may have experience higher consequences for their behaviors. That in turn interferes with their schooling, and that in turn makes them more likely later on to be involved in the criminal justice system. And so what we see is this connection between schools, which we see as really a democratic project, a project that's about creating everybody equal opportunity, as in sometimes ways funneling children into the criminal justice system. Now, I'm not talking about this for at GLOBE per se, but I'm just talking about this is the context under which school discipline is often examined. And so it's really important here at GLOBE that we have conversations about this and to see ways in which we can continue to ensure that all students are treated equally, equitably, and that we have conversations about trying to reduce disparities where we see them. So when we talk about discipline at GLOBE, and we had a good conversation about this in our academic committee meeting this past week, there's a couple things to keep in mind. We are united in by CREST and the 5 values that are represented by that term, and those terms tend to be useful in helping to help students develop the kind of behaviors and characteristics that we see as really important as a student at GLOBE. But on top of that, we also have responsive classroom, which is a particular approach to building relationships with students in the classroom in order to prevent or reduce, disciplinary problems and to create cultures of learning in the classroom. It's a positive approach that's really focused on relationships. And what's important to note for the data that you're about to see is that while responsive classroom had been implemented at GLOBE and used at GLOBE for some time, we also know that it was kind of fully implemented with training and whatnot in this past year, which we might see as it turns out, or how that plays out in the data. GLOBE is also bound by the county the county student code of conduct, which, so the DeKalb County has particular rules and regulations about how particular events are treated with respect to discipline that GLOBE is also bound to. So on this first slide here, we have the number of students suspended by year over the past 3 years. And what we see is that starting in 2017 and then 2018 and now 2019, it was up higher at around 41 or 42 suspensions in those 2 years, and then reduction down to 15 in this past year. And so the
Is
key
that
point,
because most of them happen at the end of the year?
well, that's a good question, right? So why is that the case, right? Is it part of it because, you know, we were out in March? In conversation with some administrators, though, I think that what they had spoken to was that they had seen from their experience that the responsive classroom really helped, I think, support teachers in developing those types of relationships with students, which prevented engagement in discipline later on. And so it's it's hard to know from the data whether it was one or the other for sure, but I think that it's important to keep those two things in mind, and the importance of having those kind of structural pieces in place with respect to student behavior and discipline. So we did see a big reduction in this past year in the number of suspensions. This is from the dashboard on the governor's website, or the state website, on just the 2018-2019, so not last year, but the year before discipline data, to give you a kind of a big snapshot of what it looked like. This was back when we had 42 suspensions. And so our students with incidents. And then we had an in-school and out-of-school suspension rate. You can compare that to other schools on this website as well. And then the percentage of ISS versus OSS, so in-school versus out-of-school suspension. So when we look at racial and ethnic disparities when it comes to discipline, you do see this bear out a little bit in the 2018-2019 school year. So what you can see here is when you look at the number of students, of the proportion of students who were disciplined, that Black students were overrepresented. So here you'll see on the fourth line down here for Black students that they make up 26.1% of the student population, but represent 45.2% of the disciplined population. And when you say disciplined, meaning suspended. And we also saw that difference for white students being in the opposite direction. So we look at this and you can see this disparity in the 2018 and 2019 data. So it's something that we certainly want to be paying attention to at Globe. You'll see here in the box on the right that we're not reporting race and ethnic differences due to low suspension rates and potential individual identification in the data. So we had so few suspensions this past year that to report them would be something I'd want to avoid, I guess, in a public meeting like this. Though it may be, I'm not sure what the rules are at the state level. It may be that they report those anyways because of by a particular legislation or code that they have to. And so when those are made public by the state, then we could also view them here. You can also see here suspensions by race and ethnicity in year. And so when you look at the 2017 and 18, 2018, 19 years, that we had a jump in the percentage of the suspended population being of Black representation in that group. It's because the numbers are only 41, 42 students, one or two changes can make a huge jump in one or the other. So I think it's important to interpret that change with caution, but it is also a pattern that you saw in those two prior years. Looking at the data this year, again, we couldn't break it down by those different groups, but hopefully with that overall reduction, that what we're hoping to see is a trend line that's trending downward towards the number of suspensions overall, and also a reduction in disparities. So I'm going to go into attendance here in a second, but I want to pause if anybody had comments or questions real quick before I go into that. Awesome. All right. So when we look at attendance, another key piece too is to look at school districts look at this in all kinds of different ways. One way is to look at something called chronic absenteeism, which is defined by the percentage of your students who miss over a certain number of days. And in DeKalb or in Georgia, it's defined at 15 days in the state data. And so what we see here is the racial and ethnic differences in the percentage of students of that group who are missing more than 15 school days. Overall, this is, I mean, compared to other schools and compared to the county at large, this is still fairly low for all groups in terms of the number of students who are missing these number of days. But it's, again, you want to be paying attention to trend lines and patterns that emerge in the data. So when we look at those three past years, I don't have the 2019 and 2020 data on this just yet. It's also a bit difficult given the crazy year that we had on how to define attendance. But this is kind of what the trend line has looked like for the past 3 years prior to this. All right, and so that's the discipline and attendance side of things. There's also some research around something called the COVID-19 slide coming out of actually NWEA, which is the organization that runs MAP testing. And they had a great report that came out from their researchers on what they're anticipating the effects of COVID-19 to be on student achievement as measured by standardized tests. And so they have this nice report you can check out online, but the summary of that report really is that projections suggest that you're going to have major impacts from COVID closures for students, especially in mathematics. You might have seen or heard about in education literature that a lot of times over the summer, there's summer learning loss, right? Because students who are out of school, maybe they're less likely to pick up a book or, or do some math problems over the summer, right? And so you see that drop between the prior year in May and then when they start up again in August or September. And so what they show is that because of, for some students and for some school districts, because school either closed down entirely or was partial, that in the middle of March, that downward trajectory started earlier and is lasting longer. And so they're anticipating that students are going to come back with much greater learning loss, particularly in the area of mathematics for the year. So I raise this to the board's attention only so that we're thinking about the effects of being away and how that's going to impact students, how that may impact where people are starting in the fall, and how that might affect curriculum for across a number of different realms, not even to mention the language reading and then target language acquisition pieces too. So we have a lot to think about with this. That being said, due to all the work of the leaders at the school and Christy and everyone, you know, student learning did not stop in the middle of March, but it continued all the way through the end of May. And so it may not be that Globe's trend lines look like these. These are projections based on what NWEA is estimating. So that's important to keep in mind as well. So some recommendations from that. They came up with 3 recommendations in the report, and so I kind of linked those to what we're doing here at Globe. The first is providing teacher professional development and distance learning and supporting student social emotional needs. Globe will be doing that in a variety of different ways, but one of them is the Eureka Math curriculum, which will be getting started up in the fall. It's going to come with some training for how to do that with distance learning as well. That second point there is to prioritize MAP testing in the fall. Because we didn't do MAP testing in the spring, we didn't do Georgia milestones in the spring, it's going to be really important to find out where students are and the degree to which that learning loss over the summer occurred or did not occur, or how there might have been disparities in how that fell. So we're going to hope for in-person, I think, for MAP testing, but of course are preparing for all situations. And MAP has come out with guidance and recommendations on how to conduct MAP testing remotely. And then lastly, just identifying what has worked and what needs improvement from spring 2020. And these are conversations that are ongoing in the academic committee, and we hope to continue those conversations moving forward. And that was a lot. So that's all I got today.
Are they offering a way, or do you think they're going to do MAP testing virtually if that has to be the case?
Yeah, and Christy, you can comment on that too if you'd like.
Yeah, we've had a couple of conversations with them. I know Zakia has, and I know Judy has. I think Katia has, but I'm not sure on that. I don't want to speak for her. But they are working really hard. They've done actually a couple of pilots to see how it worked, because they realize where everybody is in the country, and they really want to make that a priority. So every school knows where their students are and where they're starting from, and so we can keep them moving.
All right. So next we have Jonathan.
You're on mute, Jonathan.
I thought you were all going to lip read. Yeah. So, okay, so this was a good month. We met twice, started to work more harmoniously. Lee has joined the committee, and Beatrice and I and Lee met twice, as well as Christy met once, and from the car, I believe, Christy. But so keeping the main focus still on my onboarding, just being my kind of going into my 2.5 month to really understand areas of improvement and opportunity, and understanding just where we can like swing the needle where we can't. Priority of the month, as far as outreach and communication, was rightly so, need to carefully but constructively address the racial and social injustice, and with 2 outreaches from Catrice and 1 from Sharon. We also did, on top of the regular newsletters that Catrice sends out, I think you should all get those. Dedicated communication went out with the about the DeKalb school board elections, and we had a link to a survey findings that showed which candidates supported charter schools in the way you'd hope they would, as well as funding, and who may not. And just the idea was just hoping that our constituents and our stakeholders could make more informed decisions at the polling stations and choose people that could help Globe going forward. Big landmark for us was on the angle of transparency from the board is we got our dedicated YouTube channel up and live. So we will be hosting all board meetings going forward here and afterwards. So we'll have a process to get them up within about a week afterwards. And so they'll be going up there so everyone can find them in their memorialized state and click on them and just watch them as you wish. I have turned comments off, so you can't make comments on it, but and Catrice will be using her social media channels to drive traffic to those when a new video goes up. So again, there'll be no question of the board being very, very open with what we discuss and what we've been talking about. So obviously it's easy with Zoom because we record the meeting. We will have to look at what we can do when we go back, if and when we go back to in-person meetings, because clearly with a big board, you do need a camera that will move around as people talk. And so we'll have a look at that. But as far as first steps, we've got that going. And obviously excited to see the new website. So Catrice is keeping this quite hush-hush and secret. I know that the company that she's been working with, she's very happy with, but they had a bit of a turn around on staff where her account manager is no longer there. So I know that dropped us back a week or so. I believe that we are waiting maybe for a couple of other people to send through your bios and pictures, but thank you for everyone that did. And those that didn't, you know who you are. It's never too late, but we basically the old website, when they were uploaded in the first place, well, Kevin did a good job kind of going online and just trying to find people's pictures for those that didn't send Kevin the original pictures. But when they got uploaded to the existing site, they got compressed into a state that's not going to look good on the new site. So if anyone can send a new headshot, that would be really useful. And the bios as well, because the bios were put into pictures so you couldn't actually search them. So it's going to be a great improvement. And then I shared the link. Thank you for all the feedback on the virtual experience. Christy, I think, did a phenomenal job in the videos. You came across the great personality and very authentic. So we're hoping that's going to be a great opportunity to help Megan and all the, even the PTC see with their fundraising and just really try and get the Globe story out there to a wider audience, get people excited about what the Globe is doing. And yeah, so that's the end of my report.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. It's been great progress there. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it was a good
one.
one.
And then, yes, and I've had a good conversation with you too. Next, just lost my spot. Here we go. Megan.
Good evening, everybody. I want to start off with some good news. We actually surpassed our fundraising goal of $250,000 for general operating unrestricted. So thank you so much to everybody who donated through any of these ways, through Annual Fund, Globetrot, and Globe Rocks. This is our numbers through the end of May too, and I know that we have several reoccurring donations that we get throughout the month of June. So our fiscal year will end tomorrow, and we'll be able to see where we land after that. But thank you very much, everybody. You did a good job at that. I have put together some donor thank you letters that will be going out hopefully on July 1st, if I can get all of the final numbers together in time. All donors who gave to the Annual Fund sorry, I'm talking specifically about the annual fund portion. All donors, whether they gave $5 or $5,000, will receive a thank you letter this year, which hasn't been happening in the past. So I'm happy to recognize all of those folks. As far as other recognition, we are moving forward with the donor monitors. I'll show you the slides that I've pulled together. I've been working with Kutia and Judy to get them put up on the monitors at each of the campuses. There also will be a list on our website, and then I'm going to work with Laura and the PTCC to coordinate our efforts to get some thank you banners up for the annual fund donors at both campuses. The donor wall, or the legacy wall, is being removed because we are moving over to the donor monitors that I mentioned. I've been working with Jerry on that, and that should be completed before school starts again. And moving forward, I'm also going to be asking donors to let us know what their preferences are and how they want to be recognized with each of their gifts. In the past, we've like had the Adams family or, you know, the Brown family, but you run across some problems if there's like grandparents that have the same last names or families that are separated, and you know, I just want it to be super clear and upfront, and also donors who want to be anonymous can state that as they're making their donation, and I can collect all that data from the front end instead of trying to figure it out, you know, at the end of the school year. And then lastly, we did reach 100% board participation for the annual fund. So thank you everybody on the board. That will definitely help with our eligibility to receive some grant funds. We're already we have that barrier with the free and reduced lunch because a lot of them are looking for 50% or more, which obviously we're not there. And we won't be for a while, if ever. So this will definitely help with that. So thank you. As I mentioned a couple of meetings ago, we were kind of changing the structure of our donor levels for the annual fund. And we do have two different donor circles that I'm calling them. One is the leadership circle and one's the advocate circle. And basically our donors who meet this criteria will be recognized continually over the years. And they'll just, you know, we'll just keep hopefully adding to this list, and it'll get bigger and bigger as we move on. And I am organizing it by the number of years, you know, in a row that these donors have supported the school. So the leadership circle are the folks who have given $1,000 or more for 2 or more consecutive years. And we had 7 of those donors. The advocate circle is any donor who has given any amount to the annual fund for 3 or more consecutive years. So we had quite a few more, which is great that we're able to recognize these folks. We had 46 total this year who gave or who qualified to join the advocate circle. And I will be sending out some letters to these folks, letting them know what this means and kind of what the qualifications are and recognize them as well. As far as this current year, we have the different donor levels. It was silver, gold, and platinum. We've switched that over. We felt that it was confusing to keep those same names since we are moving to a different system starting next school year. And we are recognizing folks for an entire year based on their past giving. So the folks who gave this past year will be recognized all next school year, and then we'll switch it over after that. So at the benefactor level, we had 1 family who gave, and we also are recognizing any corporate matches in addition to the family's name. So I just want to let you know that it does count towards the family's total, and will determine the level that you will reach based on that. So just something to keep in mind if you have a company that does give. We had 1 family that was at the sustainer level for annual fund. And then we had 24 who were at the patron level. And again, you can see there's quite a few company matches there. I'm just gonna kind of quickly go through some of these. And then A new level that we're adding is a citizen level, which recognizes donors who give $100 up to $1,000. And we had 98 folks who were in this level. So I'm excited to be able to recognize them for their contributions. And again, if they are in a certain level for that particular year, they'll be recognized there. And if they have, or if they qualify to be an advocate or leadership circle donor, then they will also be recognized there as well. And these will all be on the website. And then we're also going to start recognizing our in-kind donors. We had 2 this year, the Lab Depot, who gave some science equipment to our science teachers in department, as well as Student Bridge with Jonathan and the donor thank you, or donor like informative videos that he and his team produced for us. And so we'll be recognizing those folks from now on. Oh, and then one thing I wanted to mention too, I want to work with the PTCC to hopefully get a list of volunteers that we can start recognizing them on this platform as well. And this again will be what's on those 2 monitors, and then we'll have lists of these folks on the website as well. And then depending on the level, they'll be included on the donor banner as well as in the annual fund yearbook page. And then there's other benefits as you get higher up as well. Any questions on that? All right, so the next big thing that I'm working on is the fund development plan for next school year. Our overall goal is $300,000 for unrestricted fundraising, and I've kind of divided it up into 2 different sections. The first section is the private funds. Those are where people are going to be recognized with the annual fund levels that I just went over. And then the second one is fundraising events. Those are more the incentive-based donor benefits and recognition events. So they will not be included in that annual fund total as they have in the past. So that is one big change we're making. I won't get into all the details of how we got to a lot of these numbers. If you have any questions, just let me know. But my plan is to pull together, well, the fund development plan will have basically a section for each of these categories. I will pull together a goal, list the different activities that we're going to complete to reach that goal, put a timeline, who's accountable for reaching them, and then I'll be able to report back to the board at our monthly meetings. And then I also pulled together a fundraising pledge form, which will be able to capture people's intended donations from the beginning. And I'll actually have something in hand that I can then go and follow up with. Because there may be people who are well-intentioned and just get busy and forget. So at least I have a list of folks that I can follow up with later on. And they can either make a single gift, or if they want to set up monthly gifts, I can walk them through that. I have a section for sponsorships. We're definitely going to be pushing that a lot more this coming year for annual fund. I'm also going to be using this form for the matching gift, any matching gifts that people may have, so I can link their company's gift to their family's donation totals. And then at the very bottom, I can also capture how they want to be recognized and whether or not they want to be anonymous. The donor database management system that we're wanting to convert, move away from Aplos. It's a little bit slow going. We are still pricing out some vendors, but we first wanted to get the database cleaned up. I'm working with Meg Brown on that, and she's about a fifth of the way through the list. And she's working with Infinite Campus to try to pull some of the data that we really need to make it a clean switch for us. And we expect to have that completed by the end of summer, so probably the end of August, which will be obviously after school starts. But I think we should be able to pretty seamlessly just switch out that link, the donation link on our website. So that shouldn't be a big issue on the front end. So hopefully we'll make some more progress on that this summer, and I'll continue to update you guys on that. And then we're also working on a partnership opportunities and sponsorship packet that will have the different giving levels and benefits for sponsors, in the outside community. We also are planning to pull together a student heat map. There's been a couple of groups within the school that have been interested in having this data, and I'm getting information about where students are coming from within the county, and making a map, a nice graphic for that. So if you have any need for that, our committee has agreed to kind of take that over, because we can definitely use it for this project that we're working on as well. And then we're also, to give a general overview of the school for people who may not be familiar with Globe, with links to the videos that Student Bridge has donated, which are a wonderful tool. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for that. And last but not least, grants. I wanted to just give a final update on the security and facilities grants, because I know they had been outstanding with a couple meetings ago. With some deadlines coming up. We did expend all of the grant funds by the deadline, so we're good there. I think we're just waiting on reimbursement for the last security grant that paid for some of the security cameras and the key card system and that sort of thing. Also, there was a CARES Act entitlement grant that we've been made aware of. I don't think it's 100% locked in, but it's $334,000. That would help us have one-to-one devices for students. Teachers, the K through third grade would have iPads, 4th through 8th would have Chromebooks, and then the teachers and assistants would have laptops. It would help us pay for the subscriptions for remote learning tools and platforms, and also some cleaning supplies for the school. So that would be a wonderful opportunity for the school. And my committee has been focused on looking for grants for Chromebooks. But because, if this comes through, we discussed possibly switching our focus to some DEI grants. As Monique mentioned, that's a big initiative that the board wants to move forward, and we could possibly free up some funds if we can get some grant funding for that. And a lot of the foundations I'm finding are shifting focus in light of what's happening right now to, DEI programs and initiatives. So I think there's some opportunities there that we can look into, and I can talk more with you, Monique and Christy, if that's a route that we want to take. And other than that, we're just waiting on the finalized budget for the school to figure out where the needs and gaps are for next school year. So if you have anything, any feedback or ideas, please send them my way. And our next meeting is July 21st at 7:30. Any other questions, or that's all I have?
That was a ton.
I know, I'm sorry. We're working hard.
Yeah. That was fantastic. Thank you. Ryan, you're up with first the Executive Director Evaluation.
Yep. So the ED Eval and Support Committee did meet this month. As you all know, we've been working pretty diligently for probably 6 weeks or so now on Christie's end of year review. And so for folks in the public who may not know what that process is, I'll give you a little bit of an overview there. Sharon and I meet with Christy every Friday just to offer her advice, counsel, support, and to discuss ongoing events. We do have kind of 2 review periods that we have been doing for the past couple of years, a mid-year and an end-of-year review that where we go over her specific goals for the year and then monitor progress on that. In the last meeting, we did get feedback from the board and incorporated that feedback, and then did another round of revisions with Monique and Sharon and I. Monique is also on the committee. And so now we'll be meeting an executive session here. You all know this already, to just do that final review. For those of you who may not know, this committee is a little bit different because we do discuss specific personnel matters. It is not an open meeting to the public because it is it's part of the document that goes in her personnel records. But the thing I do want everybody to know and understand is that just like other folks within the school, the executive director gets a formal review by the board every year. So we will be closing in on that process and then meeting with Christy in the next couple of weeks to do goal setting for next year once we wrap this year's review up. That is all for that committee, and I think I have facilities next as well.
Yeah, see, that works out conveniently with the alphabetic alignment.
Yeah, that's nice. Facilities committee did not meet this month, but we are continuing. The one project that we have been highlighting and talking to staff about is the upper campus connecting the two buildings. So I did meet with Christy and Denise and talk a little bit about budget, what our options are, some of the things that Jerry has run down. Darren has been really instrumental in giving us different options at different price points. And so now really it's on Christy and Denise and Jerry to kind of come up with what their budget is for that and make a decision on what we're going to do next. And that was our last thing we discussed probably a week ago or so. But other than that, we have no new work on facilities for this month.
All right. Thank you. And then next, Luis.
All right. I think Denise is going to present the spending resolution. I have a very small presentation this time, so let me just share.
And that is the spending resolution that because the state has not finalized funding and the county have not finalized funding, what we're told to do is do month by month for what really is probably the first 2 months of the new school year until we can finalize our budget.
Yep, that's accurate. I mean, we're waiting for the county to finalize the QBE funding for students. So for the first 2 months of the year, we're gonna ask for $2 million, and I'm gonna show the data. Well, now it went somewhere else, so just give me a second.
I think I saw something that county is going to give us funds based on what we have today.
Yeah, I was going to walk you through how I arrived at the 2 million. He'll show the backup sheet.
Yeah.
So basically because the county also does not know their funding, what they've decided to do is fund the charter schools in July according to how we're being funded right now. So I know how much money we're getting in July. And then in August, they're going to true it up because they expect to have the QBE numbers within the next week or so. So what I'm expecting is we'll have a decline. We will have a decline in funding in August. So I've kind of used the average of, and we're asking for a resolution for 2 months. So this is a 2-month spending resolution for July and August. We're asking for 2 million. Here you can see the breakdown. There's a comparison of what we spent in July and August in 2019 by function, and then kind of our tentative budget, what we expect to spend using somewhat similar percentages. However, the big thing you'll notice is rather than having a 6% net operating income, all that money's going into instruction. And you can see looking at the variance column. So the variance looks at the difference in funding between last year and this year. Everything's down, funding's down, spending's down, and everything except instruction. And then I put a note at the top that you can see that 80% of our total expenses are payroll related. So we have very little, Christy and I have worked very hard on cutting the budget to the bone in order to be able to keep people on staff and have no furloughs or pay reductions. So this is where we are. And the reason I'm asking for 2 million rather than the 1.9 is because of that CARES Act. I'm hoping that we have another 300, which we wouldn't spend all in those months, but I'm giving myself at least 100 grand of wiggle room there. Any questions? Okay.
I have a question. Sorry, I was trying to get my video back going. Is, I don't know, is the money that we need for the DEI vendor captured in here, or is that somewhere else?
This is just we're asking for just a total spending number. So the potential for that to be in there is there. There's nothing specifically delineated. We haven't set a budget yet for next year. So in the tentative budget, we can factor it in if we have spare room. As of right now, it's not captured as a single line item. It would be in function 10 to 2300.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just ask a quick question to follow up on Monique's. I know that, I think Christy, you had mentioned that we would maybe vote on the DEI vendor during this section of the meeting too. Do we need to vote on that? And if we voted on that, would that change how we think about this conversation at all or no?
Technically, well, Ryan and Sharon and I talked about this. Technically, the board voted on hiring this vendor back in December, if y'all recall at that board meeting. But then everything got put on hold with the budget crunch. So we are at the point, it would be nice to have the board to recognize that we're going to move forward with this contract.
But Drew, to answer your question about would it change this vote on the budget, it wouldn't, because what Denise, Christy, and Luis are asking for is kind of a spending cap for 2 months that she's saying is $2 million. And, you know, we wanted to show the board generally how we spend money, but we are not voting to restrict the staff to these categories and these dollar amounts. We're basically saying, here's how we generally spend over these months in a typical year. Our instruction per pupil, like our salaries and what we spend on staff is pretty fixed, and the rest of it is fungible. And so the DEI vendor would either come in the delta between the 1.8 and the 200, or it would come within the appropriate category and would supplant something else that we might have spent money on in a previous year. So we're just showing generally what our spending patterns are, and the staff is just asking for approval to spend at commensurate levels given the budget circumstances for the first 2 months of the year.
Gotcha, thank you.
All right, if we don't have any questions, I'm gonna move the request of asking to spend up to $2 million during July and August in lieu of a formal budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Abstains? No. Okay. Thank you.
So do we want to go ahead and do the resolution for the DEI vendor then? It sounds like Christy, even though it's officially in the minutes, I think is kind of asking just to have the confidence to have it in this meeting. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Christy? And or Monique?
I guess I want it there. I think Christy and we've already talked about that, yeah.
Okay.
So should I just make it here? Is that?
Yeah,
Sure.
Go ahead. Yeah, why don't you, Monique? Go ahead.
Well, I would like to make a motion to proceed with securing the contract for Conscious Roots, our DEI vendor, as we proceed with securing their services per their contract that we've received and reviewed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Do we need to specify a dollar amount?
Aye.
Do we need to authorize a
We already have, but.
Okay.
So this is Abba. Do I need to put in a separate request for outside counsel review of the staff handbook? We haven't sent it over and I don't have a budget or an estimate for that work yet.
We're just using we have a retainer for our attorney. We pay ongoing for our attorney.
Okay, okay.
Not me.
All right. Did Kevin record that vote or did I interrupt that? Did we complete it?
I have it.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, so next up is Abba.
Hi.
Do you need me to share my screen, the agenda?
No, I'm good. We didn't meet this. The governance committee did not meet. We did have some flurry of email exchange, and so the status of the staff handbook, we've shared everyone's collective comments, and now it's ready to be given to our outside counsel to review it for various compliance input. So that I will kick off this week, and then second is the bylaws. I received comments, a round of comments from Ryan and Megan, and I just need to incorporate those into the bylaws, and I think that would represent everyone's comments. If anybody on the board has any last minute comments that they haven't had a chance to give it to me, please do so, because this will essentially be it, and then we'll wrap that up. And that's it.
That was quick. And I just sent you an email on that, checking for some feedback from you. Okay. We can get that done. Great. Okay, so we are chugging right along. Next, we have strategic planning. Was there any update on that, Katie?
No, strategic planning has not met this month. I did talk with Ryan some in a conversation this, I guess it was last week about the committee, but we did not have a formal meeting this month.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Christy, it's time for your report.
All right, thank you. Well, hold on. I thought I was all ready and I'm not.
There we go.
Right. Can y'all see it? Okay, great. So the first thing I wanted to do is give some updates and talk about the exit survey that we did for families who left during the 2019-2020 school year. So I wanted to give those updates. Can y'all see that when I switch slides? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Where? Okay. So these were families that completed the exit survey that was sent to them starting in January and February of who left us. Just so everybody kind of knows the process that we go through. The family usually notifies the school that they'll be withdrawing. The registrar sends withdrawal paperwork. Then the families also send an exit survey that can be anonymous. So they do not, it doesn't capture emails on the front end, but there is an opportunity for them to leave their emails if they would like to be contacted further, or if they just want us to know who filled out the survey. We then forward the school records to the new school, and then we do any follow-up that is needed on the survey. So in the survey, there's 3 things that we really wanted to know. We wanted to know the who. So where are we seeing the most students leave the school and what language track? So what grade, what language track, and are there any trends? And so I'm glad that we captured this year. So next year, the whole year, we can really start to look at comparative data and see how that compares. We wanted to know the why. What is the reason the family is leaving Globe? We gave several opportunities for them to choose from suggestions, but also open-ended where they could actually write in reasons. And the where, we just kind of wanted to know, like, where are they going after they leave us? So those are what we were trying to capture in this survey. So you can see so far we've had 13 responses from those families. You can kind of see where they They fall as far as grade level and track that have filled that out. So that was our who. And then the survey results, we had 18 responses. 13 people sent back a survey, but 18 responses, because in the why, they had the opportunity to click multiple reasons. So I've listed these in the order of what we got the most responses for. So most of the responses that we got back, the majority, were they were leaving the area. And then the second largest response box was other, where they could actually put in some responses. So I wanted everybody to be able to see that. Then it went on all the way to the bottom. So they were able to choose academics did not meet my expectation, transportation to and from Globe was too hard. That's an important one for us, because we really want to try to capture if we are seeing a huge not influx, but exflux of students who are leaving based solely on transportation. So that's an important one for us to know. The language program did not meet my expectations. My child got into a county magnet program. The program I would like my child to have are not offered here, like if they really wanted more sports at the middle school level, or if they were looking more for a STEM program or something like that. Our concerns, complaints have not been properly addressed, and then bullying has been a problem. So these were the ones you could choose from, but then like I said, there was an area where you could put in others. So that was, we wanted to know, and that's why we did not capture emails on the front end, because we wanted people to know it was anonymous. So hopefully if they did not want to leave who it was, they would actually give us their real feedback. That was important. And then we wanted to know the where, like, where are you going? You can see that 53%, so the most of our students our families who answered this survey is other. And you can see down here at 15.4% is the county public school. So in other words, where they live, the school that they're zoned for, magnet program, and private school. So homeschooling and other charter school were not captured in these responses. And then just kind of next steps, like we are going to take this information and help it guide our strategic plan as we revamp after the closure for next school year and what we really need to concentrate on. And then just in the future, comparing this data to see if there are any trends that we see as we go forward. So that is just a brief on our next steps with that. Any questions about this portion?
I have one real quick, Christy, if that's all right. First, thank you for sharing all this. I think this is really awesome and great data to be looking at, and always thinking about ways we can continue to improve. As you're thinking about, you had talked about having run this survey for full time this year and excited to compare it to next year. One thing, you're probably already thinking about this too, but it may need to tweak some questions or add some different things that add questions that are specifically COVID related. And so just something to keep in mind, and you're probably already thinking about it, but.
No, that very good point. And after getting this data back, there were a couple of questions also that we were like, oh, we need to tweak that so we can really capture what we're looking for, good, bad, and ugly, so we can get that good information so we can move forward.
And I have a question, Christy. I'm not sure exactly what it said, but like the area where it's, oh, it wasn't meeting my expectations, or my needs weren't addressed, or those types of things. Did you have an opportunity to figure out what that meant? Like, how are my needs not addressed? What does that mean for someone, so that we can actually address the issue or see if it's something systemic versus kind of that really broad overlook?
Yeah, so at the end of the survey, we asked if they would like to be contacted by an administrator or a board member. And there was, I think one of those asked to be contacted by a board member, but some of them did not flesh out in writing kind of what that meant, and they didn't leave an email. So those were the ones that we did not get that information. And so we might need to tweak how we ask that next time so we can get that information without, I don't know
how it would be. I think that the need to be anonymous, it's certainly important, but if you can't attribute the reason for leaving to any particular family or just any any cause, like, you know, if someone says, well, I'm leaving because it didn't meet my needs because my, you know, my teacher just was awful, or didn't meet my expectations because my teacher was awful, or, you know, I felt like racially this wasn't, you know, a good fit for my family because of cultural biases and those types of things. We don't have a way to figure out what that is. So I don't know what exactly we would be working on if we don't know what the cause. And again, I'm sorry, because I can't scroll back to see what that is. But I mean, I could think of 100 things that could fall under that particular catch-all. And I don't know how you could even begin to address that concern if you don't know what exactly it is beyond. And I think if I was a leaving parent, this survey might be the last you hear from me. I don't know if I want to necessarily be contacted, but if given the correct prompts, I may fill in a little more information, or having felt like, okay, I've talked to these people before and I'm leaving. What more do I want to discuss this beyond filling out your survey? So I do think that those really broad categories would certainly need to be broken down, because for me, the certain things that I would be looking for beyond the transportation issue, I don't know where it would fall.
That's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that.
I think, Chrissy, I think you can, for any of those open-ended questions, just make the description like mandatory. So if somebody picks that open-ended one, they just have to, in the survey, just describe why. Like, please detail your reason. So that should help flesh out, and I think tease out what to get to Monique's point.
Yeah. Right. That's a good point.
Well, the other thing for an expectation of, we have so few people leave. Once you know the grade and the language track, you could pretty much figure out every survey. So it's not like not getting their email address. Not that that has anything to do with getting this other field, but it doesn't necessarily.
But I think, Sharon, to your point on that, like, because a lot of folks, when they're, I'm guessing the majority, like, we get a heads up that the people are leaving, and you kind of, from what you all have described in the past, you've had a sense of why they're leaving. I'm wondering if like, we have the parent survey, but we also have like maybe like a staff description next to as well, like, for kids who've left. I don't know if that's worth doing. So if you're seeing some trends as far as issues on the staff end on what they're seeing too, that would be interesting to look at as well.
We do that internally, Anita, just so you know, because that's important for us to know. We want to know. Yeah. Thanks, y'all. So in the July board meeting at the end of next month, I'll be sharing some data around the parent and teacher satisfaction survey. And within that parent satisfaction survey, there were some questions around COVID, specifically about, you know, how worried were you about your child's education during that time? How satisfied were you with what happened? And kind of what are you worried about coming up? And then we also got some feedback on the different options that are out there. So that was some good. So I'll be sharing some of that as well in July. So look for that. Strategic plan. We are excited about this DEI vendor to begin work. We've already got them scheduled for our pre-planning with our staff in July. So we're excited that that is on the calendar and ready to start working. And we're also going to use their input to help guide the reevaluation of our revisions needed for the next 2 years of our implementation of the strategic plan. So we're excited to get that going and get back on board. So Katie, get ready. So we're excited about that. Reopening, like I said before, you've heard some people say in the newsletter that we are meeting weekly and looking at all the guidelines that are coming out from the CDC, the Georgia Department of Health, the DOE, DeKalb. We're meeting with other schools. Some of the things that we're talking about is procedures for students back in the building. You know, how are students going to move in the building? How are masks going to be? What is distancing going to look like? How are tables going to be put into a room. We're talking through all those different angles. Hybrid and digital, what's at the top of our mind right now is language immersion. And how do we produce an effective language immersion program in a hybrid or digital model? So that's really in the forefront of our mind after we talked about the safety features. And looking at devices for our families that need them if we are digital or hybrid again. Our leadership team has been reading a lot. We've been meeting with other leaders, joined focus groups of other leaders in the country. One thing we got to do is Marcia, who is our interim head of school at Upper, she recently came from a school in Germany, and we were able to have a online meeting with them, and they're ahead of the United States in reopening and kind of what that looked like as they went forward and what they are doing. And so that was very interesting to us to see that, and to see who they decided stayed home, who didn't, who came, because you've heard people say that K through 5 needs to be face-to-face, middle school can be all digital. And it was interesting to hear Germany say that, they did K through 5, all digital. They didn't come in the building at all, but then they spread out throughout the whole building with their middle school, and their middle school was face-to-face because they were talking about how important social emotional learning was at that age group. It was just interesting to hear and to see a different perspective. So that's what we've been doing with this reopening to try to get ready. So as soon as DeKalb makes their decision, that we can move forward with that. So we're ready. We've been working on a parent digital handbook, distance learning handbook. We've been working on all the reopenings based on what the DOE came out with guidelines and what does that mean at Globe. So we're getting ready. And DeKalb keeps telling, I bug them every day. But they keep telling us they're waiting on the new superintendent. Well, that's Wednesday. So I'm hoping Thursday morning we have an announcement. That may not come, but that's where I am. Wait for that. So that's where we are with reopening. Enrollment. I wanted to share this with you so you can see what we're doing with our enrollment. Here you can see we've never really captured the summer people who left just during the summer months. And I felt like this was really important for us to know. We keep track of who leaves during the school year, but we did not, we have lists, but we haven't captured it in one place. So we now, with this new way of us capturing this data, we're going to be looking at our ending enrollment for the school year. So before we start looking at our enrollment for the fall, we really wanted to see in the summer who is leaving us or staying, and they're also getting that survey. So we'll also be getting that data back in from that exit survey. So you can see here, now remember, if this is kindergarten, so this total over here is actually what moves forward to first grade. Just want to be clear about that. And we've been filling those with the lottery. So that's where we are with that. So you can see kindergarten, we've had 3, first grade 1, second grade 4, third grade 6, fourth grade 4, fifth grade 0, sixth grade 1, seventh grade 1, eighth grade 65, because they all graduated. We all sent them on their way. So you can look down here at our total is 20, but this does not include the eighth grade numbers of 65. So that's where we are with that. And so going forward, we will be looking at these numbers to see again, do we see any trends that can be broken down by language or grade level? Third grade is always more than any other grade due to, I don't know, I speculate when I say, leaving lower campus to go to upper campus, but also that is when magnet programs come available as well. So it's interesting. So we'll see. But that is our enrollment. And here we are with our wait list and our lottery. So right now we are at 1090 of students to start in the fall. And usually right now we'll probably see a movement about 10 students that will go down. I'm predicting that we'll probably start the year out at about 1080, but we'll see how it all shakes out. But that's where we are right
You
now.
don't think with the COVID decision that could also influence that one way or the other some?
Good point, Sharon. I would say that what I just said before you said that was in normal times, whatever that is. But our new normal, that but we've all got to be ready for, and that is one, if I'm being perfectly honest, that is one of the reasons why I'm so concerned about us moving forward either in hybrid or digital with language immersion, because we've worked really hard for parents to come here for language immersion. And so that's why we have to be clear of like, this is how this is going to work going forward, because we don't want people to be frustrated and then to leave because of that, and then us working in the constraints of all distance and digital if we have to. So we've looked at all, and if we do hybrid, we've had all kinds of talks with the hybrid model where it's either 2 days a week or every other week that you would go with smaller class sizes and what that would look like. And we've talked about one option maybe not set in stone, but could be KN1 is half day in English, half day in language, and then 2nd through 5th could be all your face-to-face is in language and all your English instruction is distance. So we're talking about all different ways of we can make this work, and trying to keep in the forefront is what is best for student and safety. Those are the things that we're keeping at the forefront as we move forward. Am I frozen or are y'all frozen?
I'm not frozen. I don't know.
Somebody
Sounds
talk.
like, yeah.
I'm good.
I was just coming in a bit garbled there for a minute.
Yeah, I'm good.
But I have to let it go.
Christy, thank you for your report. I just wanted to state also for the, oh, sorry.
I think Monique might be trying to
okay, sorry.
say something. I don't know if her
But
connection's
she's
not bad.
gone away.
Monique, we cannot hear you if you are talking.
Frozen.
We hear in and out.
We want to hear from Drew, and Monique maybe can try to figure it out.
Okay, sure. Just real briefly, just for Christy, thank you for kind of sharing in your report and talking through some of the challenges for next year. But just for the board and for the record too, that I know that this is really, we're diving into something that's really not been done by anybody before. And I've really tried to find some research on dual language programs that have actually done this digital, like distance or hybrid, and it just doesn't exist, especially at the we don't even really have good examples of research on elementary learning at a distance, irrespective of dual language immersion. So Christy's really diving into a brand new space, and I just want to recognize our school leaders and our community for taking that head on.
Thanks, Drew.
So it's Anita. I'm just going to chime in here, just given my day job. So to Drew's point, no one's done this before. So we are all guessing. We're guessing at the federal level and at the highest levels of government. So I want to echo something that Lauren mentioned in her comments at the front end of this. There is everything about community mitigation, everything about school closures is fundamentally common sense. And so with safety in mind at the forefront of everything we do, we are making this up as we go along with the best science and data that we have to support common sense decision making on school reopening. I would caution, I think we need to learn from what other countries are doing, but other countries are also very different culturally from what's happening in the US, and having a front row seat of watching the uptick in cases all around us. When Christy and I had a conversation in February on if we think schools will close, I told her what I thought, and I will tell you guys right now too. I think we have to be flexible, which I know everyone already knows, that we have to be ready to pivot. School closing is probably the hardest thing on the federal end that we are paying attention to, knowing that if schools close, entire communities, businesses, infrastructure, it's a domino effect, and the schools closing are the first step of that. We're in a unique spot that we are dual language immersion and have additional considerations to our model. And I think we need to weigh out risks and benefits differently. I think we still have a lot of work that has to be done. We can hang on what the county says, and I think we have multiple families, my household included, that have kids in multiple different DeKalb County schools. I also think we don't need to be afraid to push the limits and go in a different direction as a county if it's what we think is best for our students' education, and trust in the fact that our parents will pivot and do what's needed, and have the flexibility, especially for high-risk parents and the plethora of families that we have that are essential workforce. So I just wanted to say that you all have at your disposal expertise of the CDC in your backyard, as well as parents that have already voiced expert opinions. I think we need to tap into that. That's all. I'll get off my soapbox now. Thanks.
Thanks, Anita. Oh, thank you, Anita. All right, so next we have no, are you done, Christy? Sorry, just want to make sure. Good.
Sharon,
great.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you all. I don't know what just happened, but I just changed to my cell phone. So I think I caught the tail end of what Anita was saying, and I may have probably was going to say something similar, just kind of in light of the earlier comments. And while, I know that we don't typically address them like in real time, but I did want to ask kind of who is at the table when we're developing our plans. And I know, I think I saw in your report, or just definitely know, that we do have the CDC's guidance on for schools, and it seems like that's something that's being consulted, but also with the concept of having other folks at our disposal, is it a matter of just, hey, we have a team and we're comfortable that we know, well, no one really knows what they're doing, but we are comfortable with the team that we have right now? Are we looking at building another team? What is kind of the we're meeting plan? Is it just the admin, or how is that development happening?
We have a really good team at the table, along with Georgia Charter School Association, who has brought a lot of people to the table as well, from the DOE and the Board of Health. But we have not been able to move forward with any kind of outside team because we don't know yet. We are waiting so we can move forward. And when I tell you that it's the thing that keeps me up at night, everybody is ready to make a plan. And I think DeKalb's not far. They're not far behind, because all the other school systems are starting to make their decisions. DeKalb usually is not one of the first to make their decisions, and I knew they wouldn't be. And then you throw the new superintendent on it. But as soon as we get that thought, then we can start entertaining things like that. But we are not at the point right here today to do that.
And I guess my big point.
Thank you.
My big point is, I think we use the DeKalb position as the bumper and a guide for us, but I think we also have unique needs as a community, and with a model that's already very complicated to implement, and with a unique community, given the number of staff we have in the healthcare industry, healthcare sector, public health sector, as well as high-risk groups.
Okay. So thank you. That was great. Next we have up our new business and elections and term renewals. So first we have board terms for Ryan and Monique that expire tomorrow. So we want to extend their terms or renew them. Monique, you're in. The time has passed.
Better vote her real fast before she.
I was gonna say my connection. I think it's going out again. Yeah. So, do we need to vote on it, or is it just
Yeah.
it's already done?
We're going to, I think we're going to, right, Ryan?
We probably should sit there tomorrow, but I don't. That's not something that Monique and I would move. Would it be?
No.
Can I get a motion for one of them or both of them?
Yeah, I think our terms are concurrent. So
yeah, they are.
Do it together.
So I move to renew Monique and Ryan's board terms for subsequent terms of coterminous terms.
A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
And then the second thing is we need a new chair of the board. And so we need to nominate Ryan as chair of the board of directors.
Could I make a motion to nominate Ryan as the new chair of the board?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. All right, I'm done. See ya.
Bye, Sharon. See ya.
Bye, Sharon.
You're
Thank
not
you.
done yet.
Since, yeah,
Those new bylaws are coming out soon, so don't get too comfortable.
Yeah. Until the meeting's over. Do we, and since Anita's actually here, I know we talked about it last time and I think we tabled it. So are we?
We're gonna do that next meeting.
What are we, well, we aren't gonna do anything because you're not gonna be here. So
That's
what?
right.
Y'all,
What we are you talking about, ma'am? So what is that? What do you mean is next meeting we're going to?
anything with Anita is gonna be at next meeting.
Okay, all right.
We're gonna tap into her for the next month on COVID.
I'm being used.
No, I was gonna say that's interesting. Long
That's
as
what
it's
we're all
with-
here for. Use us for whatever we can offer. Okay,
Again,
so
us and we for people who are leaving.
You know she's not just gonna disappear.
So there's a hint if ever we saw one.
all right. So the next thing we have is the executive session. So if we could get a motion to go into executive session, and then Anita, I sent you to your other email in case you needed it, the link if you wanna.
Yeah, I
We'll
sent
go
it
to
to you, Anita, as well.
I'll move to go to executive session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. You have an email from Ryan with the link.
Great.
Appreciate it.
This
Getting
meeting
there.
is longer than expected.
I'm so hungry.
I know, I finally caved and I'm like munching on something I had next to me.
I got nothing to eat in my house.
FYI, we do have 3 attendees listening, just so you know.
If they want to drop by some dinner, I'd be happy.
Was that be on your best behavior?
That was shut up, Chip.
Downhill? Okay.
That's good board management, Christy.
Thank you, Christy. We appreciate it.
All right.
Is everybody back?
Let me put the bottle of whiskey down then.
Or not.
We don't have Abba. Or Drew. Oh, we have Drew. You moved where you used to be. There we go.
Everybody back.
All right. Can I get a motion to return from executive committee?
I'll move to return from executive committee.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And are we prepared to make a vote post-executive committee?
Yes. I move to present the ED performance review to Christy as in its current state with the one amendment that we discussed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you. You all will have another meeting.
She dropped the "we" really quickly.
Yeah, right.
Quick learner, quick learner.
July
Nice flex there.
27th is the next date. So sometimes we haven't had July meetings, but with everything that's going on, I will think you're either going to want it then or sometime close to then. So unless anyone has a reason not to keep that one on the books for now.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering if
The following week?
I was actually gonna,
Oh,
we potentially move it up a week, just given the school startup and school opening plans and all of that, and having ample time to kind of hear from the team on what the plan is and review it. What's the
the 20th would be the week before.
what's the current first day of school, Christy?
August 5th.
What I thought. Is that one, two, that's 3 weeks away. And I mean, we're going to be in the thick of decisions and communication and all of that, it seems to me.
The thing is, though, will there be enough to happen between, like, if one, I don't know if Christy has vacation planned or anyone else between now and then. That's kind of a prime time, but also, is there enough time? I guess that's 4 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 3 weeks. So
Yeah, it's only 3 weeks, but there's only 4.5 weeks until the first day of school.
I think it makes sense to do
five and a
it.
half, 5.5 weeks till the first day of school.
And just FYI, Fulton pushed back to August 17th as a start date. And I don't know if anybody else will follow.
Okay. So what do y'all think? That's 20th, 27th, stick with.
Do either.
I feel like the 27th, at least we're close enough to the start date that there shouldn't be a whole lot of still fluid stuff. And I think we run the risk that the most time we have from the start date, then we run the risk of there still being kind of things being nailed down. I mean, I don't know.
Or the DOE changing it.
Right. So to me, I think the 27th
27th?
would be the best date. That's my reasoning. And I imagine that there's anything that the board would be able to maybe veto a particular plan. I'm not, for lack of a better word, I'm hungry, I'm sorry. But if that would happen, whatever those communications would come up sooner and we could address them as they come. We don't have to, wait for a meeting or maybe an emergency meeting or something along those lines.
Okay.
So that's
all right. Well, let's keep it. Any other thoughts on that? 20th versus 27th?
I like the 27th.
27th.
Either
All right.
fine.
I mean, I think we
Either's fine.
need to do it. So, all right, let's do it for the 27th then, Kevin, and then we'll just pull people in as needed over the next couple of weeks because we are going to need some support for planning.
And you said Fulton announced that, Christy? Because I don't see it anywhere on their site.
Yeah, they just did earlier.
They just
today.
did.
They announced today.
Like while we were, I think maybe while we were in the meeting.
Yeah,
or right
it
before
was
we
during the
started.
meeting.
They didn't put it on their website.
Surprise, surprise.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Right, folks, have a good July 4th
Adjourn?
weekend.
Are we gonna move the, in the
Need to
meeting?
adjourn.
Yes.
Sharon, you
Who's
want
in
to
charge at the end of this meeting?
Give Sharon the
Are you in
honors.
charge still, or my charge? Who's
Well, we'll say you're in charge as of July 1st.
July
or-
1st? That's what I'm saying. I'm not.
Yeah. Can I get a motion to end the meeting?
I'll move to adjourn the meeting or end the meeting.
A second.
All in favor? Thank you,
Aye.
everyone. Thank you,
Good night,
Globe.
Everyone.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Sharon.
Thank you.
Job
Bye.
well done.
Bye, Sharon.
Bye.
Job well done indeed. Bye, Sharon.